Silence! It's time! It's time! It's
time for another episode of the Drunk Dash Nerds podcast.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Grab a six-pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk Dash Nerds podcast. Grab a six-pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk Dash Nerds podcast. Grab a six-pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk Dash Nerds podcast. Grab a six-pack, sit back and prepare to laugh. It's Drunk Dash Nerds podcast. Sit back to the back of the back of the grab a six-pack, sit back to the back of the back of the grab a six-pack, sit back to the back of the back of the grab a six-pack, sit back to the
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 352 of the Drunk Dash podcast. I'm your host, as always, I'm Tyler, joining me with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sir Colonel Gables.
Hey, I'm doing all right. I'm gonna give you a little bit of word of warning before we go through our whole game of the year for 2019. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I started out and I could only find like about maybe 8 games in total. So what I am doing is I'm adding 2 games that I played a lot of last year, and I'm just quintessentially going to be adding that to the list. Since we have our top 10s.
Yeah.
But last year was one of those weird things where I could only maybe play and maybe liked about maybe 8 games in total.
Yeah, I'm with you. This year was a little rougher to, I made a top 10 list, but it's not like other years where like 10 was like still a really good game, or like 8 was like a really great game. But it was just like, unfortunately, there was like 6 like all-time great games, or like,
right.
Or like I went through like this year was a little easier to fill in for me. Actually, it was easier to like. There wasn't as much competition to put in, I should say, but tougher because I'm like, does that game really deserve to be in my top 10 list? Kind of thing. Like, does that really deserve to be a top 10 game of a year? But I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of 2019 was a rough year for games. Like, there's some good ones out there, but like we've talked about many times before over the course of the last 6 months or so. It was pretty barren for the most part. For like, if you wanted that like generational game, you didn't really. We've been spoiled where we were getting like a handful a year, probably more than that. To like this year was like we got a lot of pretty good games last year, but
right.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we're gonna do our top 10 this year. I don't know. It's kind of a shitty way to kind of start off. I feel kind of bad, but like these are games we all enjoyed. They're just not like it's like if this were like the last 3 years, some of these games wouldn't even probably. If I had to put like 2016 and 2019 together and make a top 40 list, like probably only a few of these games would have made that list. Let's put it that way. But yeah, we're gonna take turns. I'll start with 10, and then Gables will go 10. Then we'll go back and forth.
All right.
Then I figured when we get to before we start 5, if you have any, we'll do honorable mentions. I do have a few. I want to just throw out there.
Okay.
But yeah. So let's just we got ways to go here. So let's just get on into it. I'll start with number 10. I just talked about it it's been a few minutes for us, but maybe I don't know how long. It's probably be like a few days in between the last episode and this one. But After Party, I put it at number 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cheating because I played it this year, but it was a 2019 game, so it still counts. God damn it. But like I said, I talked about it already. But I really enjoyed it. It was a fun game. It was one of the few games. There's some good comedy games that come out every so often, like jazz punk, stuff like that. That kind of like they actually like are legitimately funny and good, because every now and again that game has like there's a funny moment in there, but it's like
right.
Comedy games are very hard to like. There are very few far in between. They're like that I find usually like really good. So this one coming out, it legitimately made me laugh on a bunch of different occasions. Characters charming, the world they built was charming. I just talked about it, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was legitimately a really, really funny game that I'm happy I did. I went back and I didn't just gloss over it. I downloaded it. I'm like, I'm going to play that game. It was one of those games you put in your pile of shame that you just never get to 5 years later. It's still sitting there now unplayed. So I'm happy. I did decide to jump into this and play it. Once I really got into it, like after like the first hour, it's still funny, but it's not, you're not like it's like sucked into it. And then like the last like 4 hours, once I got to like that the opening, I was like, I'm in, and I didn't want to put it down, and I beat it in like 2 gaming sessions. So it was a lot of fun. So that's number 10. Number 10 is After Party. What about you, Gables?
All right. So number 10 for me is Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night.
Okay, nice. Honestly, I thought this would be higher.
To be perfectly honest, the reason why it's not higher is because I didn't finish the game.
Oh, okay.
I have literally played the game, but at the same point, I was waiting a lot for the incremental updates for the game to come on Switch.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I did play a bit of it, like on the Xbox One, in terms of like the Game Pass stuff more recently. Yep. But at the same time, I felt like Bloodstained was a part of this list because of the quality of the game itself in regards to the gameplay wise, and then also in terms of like, say, the artistic stuff. Maybe not so much like the art direction in regards to frame rate issues in this on the Switch port. I mean, the Switch port had its issues, but at the same time, a bunch of what I have played I did enjoy. And this is probably one of like maybe a couple of games on this list where I liked, and it was just enough just to go through and crack the top 10.
All right. Yeah. All right. So my number 9 is honestly, in a weird way, also my most disappointing game for 2019. Just going into the hype for this game, it is Star Wars Fallen Order.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was a game. I thought the story was like, it was slow to get into, but once like I kind of like to like. There's a point I talked about when I played it when we were recording, like I was still in the middle of playing it. I'm like I am all in on the story. I love this bad guy. I love the villain in this, and I want to know more about this. And the ending was like, it just kind of felt like once we really got going with that story, and like it was few and far between those moments. And when we really got going into it, like it was over. Like that whole like I'm like, okay, well I guess we're done here.
Yeah.
And like the combat's good. I thought the game is challenging. It's fun. They definitely went for like the Dark Souls feel. And like I talked about at that point in time, like they took a lot of different things that other games have done, but like every game has done it better. And it's not to say it's bad. Like there's a lot of games that come out like that. Like they're like they took elements from here. But they make them their own thing, and they focus on those things, and they make sure they do a really good job on it. And this game was like just a hodgepodge of different. We're going to take from Uncharted. We're going to take from Metroid. We're going to take from Castlevania. We're going to take from Dark Souls. We're going to take all of these things, and we're going to make a Star Wars game out of it. And it's just, they never really felt like they focused on one thing and made it really great. And plus, when I played it, it took me a little while to beat it, but even like with the updates coming out for the game, when I remember playing it on launch day, and it was like, there was a lot of bugs, like clipping and falling through the world. Like I don't know how many times I got like stuck on a wall, like, or like a character I was fighting, like he got stuck on a wall, and then I couldn't kill him because he was in the wall, so I couldn't hit him, and like just a lot of issues like that. And a game that's like so based on timing and needs to flow really well, like it killed that for me so many times. I'm sure if you play it now it'd be a lot better, but I don't know how many times that game like just completely took me, like when I'm getting sucked into the game, like all right, it's really flowing for me right now, like just killed it for me, that feeling where I'm like, fuck, okay, like here's this weird glitch that happened, or something dumb happened here that wasn't really supposed to, that's not how it's supposed to work. But I don't know, like there was still like it helped. This is a game that's like helped by the fact it's Star Wars, and it's something, and that's not a bad thing. Like I've talked before, like Zelda Breath of the Wild is an all-time great game because it's Zelda Breath of the Wild. If it was just Breath of the Wild, it'd be a really great game, but I don't think we wouldn't be talking about it as nearly as much as we do today. I don't think it wasn't the fact that it's Zelda. Metal Gear Solid 5 is Phantom Pain is an all-time great game to a lot of people, including myself, but it'd be like a really good game, a game I might not have really gave it a chance for if it was just called Phantom Pain. It's kind of one of those things. If this was just called Fallen Order, I feel like this would have been like just another, here's another Dark Souls. It's just, Uncharted type game that's coming out. I feel like it probably would have got some good reception to it, but the fact it was a Star Wars game is what gave it, deservedly so. Like it's still a really well made game. I think if I went back and if I was able to play it now after if it's been out for a little while, it'd probably be a little higher on my list. But it's like sitting down playing it and just the frustration of that, and also like I'm not very good at games. Like the frustration, it was like a lot of my deaths didn't feel cheap, but it was very frustrating when like I'm playing. Like I said, it's a timing based game, and the fact that I don't know how many times I died because of some stupid fucking glitch or someone stuck here, some so I have to like reset because I can't beat this guy because he's stuck here. Like there's parts of the game where you have to fight waves of enemies before you can move on, and it's like, well, this guy's stuck in the wall, so I have to restart this whole fucking section over again to move on from the game. That's what dropped it down. Otherwise, it would be higher up if it wasn't for that. But yeah, that's my number 9, Star Wars Fallen Order. What's yours, Gables?
All right, the number 9 that I have is a bit of a classic, but also a bit of a new game that was released on the Switch like around this time last year, actually, and that was Tetris 99.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that came out last year.
Dude, Tetris 99, when that game initially came out during that stealth announcement, they're one of those Switch Directs, it's like, I downloaded that game, I played that game solid for off and on for a good solid couple of weeks, and I go back to it periodically because, hey, it's Tetris. It's fun. It's basically you against 99 other people. It's the Battle Royale version of Tetris. And quite honestly, it's that appeal which made me really enjoy that game. Because even though I could not win hardly any type of matches, and I think the highest I've ever gotten was maybe like number 3 or number 2 or whatever the hell it was. But just the fact and the satisfying feeling you get from beating so many different people at the same time, this is nothing like that, you know? It's just one of those types of games also where you want to play a little bit in chunks. You don't want to do like long sessions of it, especially a puzzle game. You play a puzzle game like that for long sessions of time, you're going to be freaking mentally exhausted after like about a good solid maybe 15, 20 minutes of just doing that. Especially if you come across bad luck and paired off with players that obviously know how to do these things faster than you can, and all of a sudden it's like, game over. Oh, like, shit, no. But then again, that was enough to justify it, in my honest opinion, to be my number 9 for the game of the year for last year. And quite honestly, I'm pretty happy to have some form of Tetris on this list.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember downloading it when it first came out, and Courtney and I actually played it for a couple hours during the Extra Life this past year. And like she's like, I actually really like Tetris. I'm like, really? And we because she just saw it on my Switch Home thing, and we started playing it. She's like actually like legitimately really good at that game. Like she's not like kicking anybody's asses, but I was like playing it and I kept like getting to like the 60s. Like that was my best, was like in the 60s. I'm not very good at Tetris games. She was like getting into like the top 20 every fucking time.
Wow.
Every time. Like just first time she played it, she got to like 40, and then we'd take turns, and then she was like, I'm gonna like every time top 20. She got like one top 10 finish. I'm like, what the fuck?
Her problem solving skills are pretty elite, it sounds like.
Yeah. God damn. It's like, I'm gonna have to keep you around. She's not here, so she can't hear that. But she'll never listen to this, hopefully. Yeah, moving on to my number 8 game of the year is Zelda's Link's Awakening. One of the cutest goddamn games I've ever played ever. Really fun game, enjoyed it a lot. It was great to find because that's like there's this one and there's those 2 Game Boy Color ones I'm forgetting the names of. Ages.
Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages.
Yeah, those 2. Like those are like the 3 games that like I just like Zelda games I've just completely glossed over. Like I there's a few like Majora's Mask. Finally went back, played that in 3DS. Like I went back and I caught up on those ones. Skyward Sword's the other one, but
yeah,
this is one of the ones like I've always wanted to like play, and I was like, oh, like coming out, look like the style is unique. I love the game. The dungeons are like really well done, and I like the boss fights quite a bit. Some of them like, I've always been more of a fan of like Link to the Past style. Like, what's the one that was on 3DS? Link Between Worlds. Like those games, I love those ones more than any other Zelda games. So to see that come out, and I'm like, okay, it looks just like that, it feels just like that. All right, I'm all in on this. It was a lot of fun. There was one thing that fucking killed me on this goddamn game, and I ranted about it when I beat the game, because after I did the show with you, was the motherfucking goddamn like exchanging of the gifts thing, where like I thought that was a side thing you had to do. Come to find out, you had to do that to beat the goddamn last boss. So like there was 16 steps you had to do. We had to find these random things throughout the goddamn world, and you had to exchange them with people. So I had to fucking like, here's a shovel, you exchange it for goddamn seashell. Why the fuck would I give up a shovel where I could find rupees and cool shit? Instead, no, I'm gonna get goddamn a seashell, and I gotta give it to a fucking mermaid so she can give me a fucking necklace. I'm getting mad again. I'm getting mad again, Gables. But when I found out, I'm on like step 3, and I have 16. There's 16 to do. I'm like, fuck. And I spent like 3 hours trying to do that shit. Finally gave up. And like the last like 5, I just looked it up. I'm like, fuck this. And I just knocked that out really fast. But no, everything about this game is really great. It was just like when I was like making this list. That's all I could think about was like I was like,
the
oh
shovel
man,
for the seashell.
yeah, like that was fucking stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you? Okay, bring it down, Tyler. It's cool. Okay. But like I kept thinking like, all right, so like I'm thinking of all these like really cool moments, great moments, and like I kept coming back to the goddamn shovel for the seashell moment. It's so mad, it's so maddening. Yeah, no, it's a really fun game. There's some problems like there's some definitely like there's a lot of slow down moments, stuff like that happens. Frame rate drops a lot in this game, but. I don't know. Overall, I thought it was like it just kind of brought me back to like playing Link to the Past for the first time, going back and playing Link's Between Worlds for the first time. It gave me that moment. Like I really enjoyed that game, really enjoyed those games, and like this is the kind of style of Zelda that I love the most. Like I Breath of the Wild, all time great game, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, all those games great. But like to me, these are the Zelda games I like the most. And it makes me like it gives me hope that we get the the Oracle of Ages and Seasons eventually brought over somehow to the Switch. I don't know how. It'd probably just be some port or something, but I'd love to play him. But really good game. Enjoy a lot. Fuck the trading system. So yeah, number 8, Link's Awakening. Sorry, Gables, what's your number 8?
All right. So this game was a part of a package that I bought early on last year, and it's actually one of the games that I have a platinum trophy in.
Oh,
and
boy.
This one is Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight.
I thought you were gonna say Ghost Recon like Black or something. Where the fuck that game was called?
Oh no, I didn't even touch that game with a fucking 15-foot pole, dude. It's like, in terms of my appeal for music-based games, this thing really was the type of game I wanted to play. I love the Persona games, the dancing games, especially Persona 4. Dancing All Night. When that was on the Vita, I played through that game entirely, and I got the Platinum Trophy for that. But for the set that came out for the PlayStation 4, it had 3 games to it, which was Persona 4, Dancing All Night, the game I played before, then it had a Persona 3, and Persona 5. Like, those subsidiary dancing games. So for number 5, I really loved the aspect of the musical track selection, and I also loved the fact that you could go through, not just manipulate a lot of the songs in terms of how fast notes could go, how difficulty in terms of rhythm and this and that. And I'll tell you what, Tyler, I basically went through this game and I have like maybe a few tracks that I can go back to and try to 100%. But it's the type of game where even after you earn the Platinum Trophy, you want to go back and you want to get 100% of everything. And that was quintessentially me playing the Persona dancing games like last year. So Persona 5, that was the latest one. That was towards the tail end of 2019. And I quintessentially got it down to where I earned the Platinum Trophy late. I would play this game little bits. If I had like a tough time at work or something, I would just go through, just kind of veg out a little bit and just play a little bit of this dancing game and get all the rhythms and everything else. And man, it's a process. Like, first you got to learn the game, and then you had to go through and just try to go through tracks over and over. And I have a good sense of rhythm, personally, I feel. And so it kind of came naturally to me, and all of a sudden when I went through to get some of the harder levels and the harder tracks in the game, it literally took me so much time just to go back and did that. And I spent a good solid 40 or 50 hours playing this one game. And it's like, where did that time go? But yeah, for number 8, it was Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight.
Very cool. So it was pretty funny because you played that on Extra Life quite a bit, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I did actually.
I remember we pull up your stream and Courtney was mesmerized by this goddamn your stream and you playing this game, and then that weird the Hateful Boyfriend, that was a good time too. Watching play that.
Oh, the Hateful Boyfriend stuff was amazing.
Yes, that was a good time. You should do that again. That should be your annual thing in Extra Life. Just playing through that game.
That's actually good advice.
I love to watch you just play that every year.
Dude, okay. Okay, that's gonna be like one of two games I'm gonna play in Extra Life like every year.
Yeah, that needs to be it. Needs to be one of them. All right, so moving on to number 7 for me. This may be a little bit of a shocker for people. Number 7 is Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was a game I actually just ended up red boxing for extra. It came out like the day before Extra Life, and I went up, picked it up, played it. I beat it in like 2 sittings on Extra Life. I don't know what the hell that was. What the fuck's going on? Okay, Louis is underneath the table doing something. I don't want to know. But yeah, so it's I played through. It's I don't know. It's like it brought me back a little bit to like I enjoyed like Advanced Warfare and things like that. I enjoyed those like weird ones they got into. Like I was one of those few people that, for someone that just plays Call of Duty for the campaigns, like I was one of the few people that got, really into those games. And then they did like World War II. I didn't really care for that. Black Ops 4, no story. It was playing the Battle Royale mode was kind of fun. But going into this game where it's like, it really is like, oh, okay, it's fucking, they're running out of ideas, they're going back to basics, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it sounds stupid, but then they did it, and it's like, no, they went, like, this feels like really good. Like, they went back to basics, and it feels fun. Like, it really brought, like, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, like, they're playing that trilogy. Like, I felt like I was playing the fourth one of that, like, Modern Warfare 4. And brought me back to that moment. Like, nothing's going to hit the heights, I don't think, of, like, the first Modern Warfare game. And like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops, like I don't know if it's possible to hit those heights again, maybe from like a major audience. But like for me, going into that and playing it, it's like it's simple shooting game. Like when it felt like for like a long time there, especially early on in the decade, like we got a lot of those like generic army shooter games, and it's like, okay, it's just like we're over this, and if going back to it. Like it felt fun, it felt great, and like they're the best at it. Like nobody's better than Infinity Ward at these goddamn games. And then going back to it, playing it, like the story's whatever. It's dumb and stupid, hoorah army game. But like it just felt fun to go back to that and do it again for really the first time since like 2009, 2010, I want to say. So yeah, like. I don't know. It felt great. It felt fun. I enjoyed doing it. And I hope if like, that's kind of like, we have no idea like what this year is going to be. Like this is actually one of the years, like usually go in like to the year already knowing like what the spoilers are out there for the next Call of Duty game. And it's like, this is that one of those years where we don't have actually like this. We don't really know what's going on yet. Like I'm sure something will drop soon now that I said something, but it's kind of a unique year for Call of Duty. So I'm hoping they kind of find a nice little style with this and then keep going on, because like it proved like I didn't think I was really going to care much for it, but I wanted to give it a shot, and kind of it was one of those games like maybe it helped the fact that I was like not expecting a whole lot and I went way over what I was anticipating. But yeah, it was a really fun game, really great game, and like I said, I hope they come back and do more of that. But Gables, what's your number 7?
All right, so for my number 7 is going to be a bit of a surprise for people.
Oh.
But it is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice.
Oh, okay. Right. Video Game Awards Game of the Year.
Yeah. Well, during my time playing the game on Extra Life and going to like the intricate details of how I play this game, I'll tell you what, I really liked what I played. Granted, I still need to get around to play the rest of this game, but the initial time that I spent playing this game, I felt was very methodical. It can be fast-paced if you choose to be, but I love the aspect of like every battle kind of feeling like it's epic in sort of a way. Because every time you face off against an opponent, say either stealth-wise or hand-to-hand combat, if you choose to do like the combative approach, it just felt like was its own simple kind of like boss battle in that regards. You have to counter a specific way, you have to get used to patterns a certain way. And in terms of like facing off against some of the bosses and stuff, I kept continuously dying to like one of the first bosses inside the game, because there's like a specific pattern that you have to follow and you have to go through. the types of patterns remind me of old school action games for the Nintendo Entertainment System, to where it's like, you want to play a game, say like Ninja Gaiden, or you want to play a game like Contra or Castlevania, you're going to go through these type of levels or these type of enemies a few times before you can actually recognize, oh, if I just wait in the corner right here and wait for him to do his attack at just the right moment, I could just counter it by pressing the counter button, like either R1, R2. I have since forgotten, since Extra Life was November, and here we are in February.
Yeah.
And you can counteract. You can do tons of damage after just going through like a consecutive, like a counter and then an attack. The game actively does punish you if you do try to spam attack after attack. The attack, the health won't go down as much if you do it that way. In terms of like the actual quality of the game, the story is fairly interesting. You're pretty much tasked with protecting some young like heir to a specific dynasty, but at the same time he gets kidnapped. You have to go out and try to find him. And in the regards, you get kind of like reborn. You were killed by this one like crazy ass looking samurai, and then all of a sudden you come back to life. You have this dude that's working on your like freaking Gatling, like almost like a Gatling gun sort of esque type of thing, but basically you have this mechanical arm which he can work on to give you like different types of like attacks, different types of abilities, upgradable stuff. It was fairly interesting in terms of that. In terms of difficulty, it is kind of a little bit below that of, say, a Bloodborne, I want to say. And it's kind of much more approachable that way. Because here's the thing. In terms of the Dark Souls type of games, or Bloodborne type of games, you have a specific type of threshold. There are some aspects of the game where, people don't really enjoy, and that's being tossed in the middle of the pool, and basically the developer telling me, okay, now fend for yourself. And then there's the type of things where they kind of introduced you. There's some games in that series where they kind of introduce you to different mechanics or different types of things just by basically looking at surroundings around you. Sekiro is one of those type of games where if you fiddle around with it, you'll learn that, hey, I can use this little grappling hook to climb on top of like buildings and stuff. I can wait for the specific enemy to go through in a pattern. I can actually do a jump attack to where if he gets into that right position, I could just do a dive attack and I could just go through, spear him, kill him just right there. Maybe go up again and just repeat the same things. It provides you with those type of options that I thoroughly enjoy in those type of action games. At the same point, in order for me to fully enjoy this game, I have to dedicate a lot of time to learning the intricacies of that. And I like that. I do like that, where the game wants you to spend time. It rewards you with your time by basically giving you enough like orbs or options and stuff so you can upgrade your mechanic. But the double-edged sword of it is, if you die so many times, you lose a bit of the orbs and stuff that you accumulate, similar to the Dark Souls or the Bloodborne games. So, potentially, if you don't do, like, certain things in a right particular order, you're going to lose tons of progress. And that's a big turnoff to some, and I admit, that is a turnoff to me to some point and extent. But at the same time, it's that one more game type of feel, to where if you want to go out and you want to get, well, to quote something that's fairly obvious and overstated, if you want to get good at said game, you have to learn the intricacies, learn how specific enemies go and are countered, and on top of that, you got to learn how to excellently execute particular paths to make sure you get this like game all in, get all your ducks in a row in like level after level. But yeah, that's my number 7 game of the year for 2019, and that's Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice.
Very cool. I love the excellently execute line, by the way. Very
well, hey, I was thinking of Bret Hart when I was thinking that.
Yeah, the excellent execution. Yeah. Yeah, but that's very cool. That's definitely a I always talk about like I always try to respect great games, but recognize that they're not my games. And it's like Bloodstained, those type of games, like Sekiro, like those games, like I wish I can play and love. But like you remember years ago I tried to get into Bloodstained, and I spent like 3 hours trying to beat like the first fucking like 10 minutes of the game.
Bloodborne, let me tell you, that is definitely something. I understand the frustration that you went through, because enduring that and just dying to like enemies like those stupid freaking demon dogs. I mean, that was just ridiculous in that regards.
I remember though when I told you about it and you laughed at me hysterically. It's like,
well,
that's like the first 20 minutes of the game. I'm like, I can't beat it, Gables.
I found it hilarious because, for one, you had spent like about a good solid 20 minutes like going through trying to just beat these two particular monsters, where
it's fucking hard.
You could have done a proactively different way, where you could have tried to maybe rush through the thing, try to get to the lantern at like the end point of, I forget which end point it was, but if you had taken your time with some aspects of it, you probably would have gotten to that first lantern. It's like, okay, now I can go through and just zip right through, get my blood points, and get things all nice and neat, possibly leveling up.
It's just
because you didn't even get a chance to level up. You're under.
No, it didn't go well. I respect them. I wish I could play them. I wish, like, I get the whole get good thing. I respect the challenge of it. I do wish there was like an easy mode, a baby mode, for those games. I would love to play through those games and just appreciate, like, when I hear people talk about those games, I'm just like, I want to feel that feeling. I want to understand these worlds, and I just can't. But all right, Gables. So moving on to my number 6 game of the year. It's funny, like, this is the 5th one of their games I've played, and this is the first time, and I loved all of them. And this is my first one that's ever going to be in a top 10 games of the year show for us.
Yeah.
Be fair, one of them was before we did this podcast. But it is Mortal Kombat 11 from NetherRealms. I've talked about all the time. I love like the story mode that they've created. Like I enjoy fighting games, or they're fun for me for a little bit, and I just kind of I kind of move on from. Very few stick with me. Like Smash is the exception. Dragon Ball Fighters is definitely an exception to that rule, especially for my hatred of anime. That's crazy thing. Fucking Dragon Ball Fighters was in my top 10 last year. This is a weird. Anyways, moving on. But yeah, it was a really fun game. Like I thought going into this one, all right, the third one of these. I like the Injustice ones more. Just the DC characters side of it is more enjoyable for me because I know those characters more. Even though I grew up loving Mortal Kombat, I just enjoy the characters of DC more than the Mortal Kombat characters. But anyways, I was really surprised how much I enjoyed this one. Like especially like when you look at the story where it's like, all right, we're basically just trying to like fix the things that we did in the original 2. They made some big decisions. They killed off characters. They weren't in they were in the last game in Mortal Kombat X, but they weren't a part of the story mode. Like they just straight up killed off like main characters. And like here's a way of bringing it back. Like they did like the whole time travel thing, and they like totally redid the entire universe of things. And it's really corny and kind of dumb in a way because time travel is really corny and really dumb in a lot of ways. But it was just really well like put together, and I thought, and I really enjoyed the like. I think I enjoyed the original Mortal Kombat story more, maybe because it was so fresh and new to me too, of these 3. But it was fun, like especially when Johnny Cage is fighting old Johnny Cage is fighting young Johnny Cage, and like old Johnny Cage like this guy's a douchebag. it's just funny. It's like this guy sucks. It's all really funny. It's all really well done, like. Stuff like that, like Jax fighting young Jax fighting new Jax. Like they made some like really cool like fights that you didn't know you wanted that like happened, and it was just like they did some really great jobs with it, and they made the whole time travel thing like as corny and dumb as it is. Like it was still like it's a dumb like fighting action game. Like you don't like it's just like Call of Duty. It's like it's a dumb army game. This is really like the really dumb story mode, but it's fun as hell. And I had a lot of fun. Like, just don't put a lot of thought into anything, and it works really well. And they brought a lot of characters back, and it kind of hit a lot of things that like Mortal Kombat X was still really fun and enjoyable, but it was like a lot of it was like we're trying to bring in all these new characters, and we're taking out like we killed off some old characters. We're like kind of putting a lot of old characters in the back burner, and this one did a great job of and I thought they did a good job with those new characters. But I think someone that just wants the fight with like Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, and all those guys. Like that part kind of sucked, but this one did a really great job of like bringing in the old with the new and combining them all together into a really well done place. So yeah, my number 6 is Mortal Kombat 11. So Gables, what's your number 6?
Okay, now my number 6 is Super Mario Maker 2.
Ooh, okay.
The reason why I like Super Mario Maker 2 is because of the reworking of not only the course creator, but I did like the aspect of adding in a single player mode to the game itself. Now, granted, it did not have the same type of effect that the original Super Mario Maker had on me, but at the same time, I love the inclusion of the single player. I did love the fact that there were a bunch of Nintendo-made levels that I could go through and try out and stuff. Because quintessentially, I do like creating levels in regards to, say, games like Mario Maker. At the same time, I absolutely love the idea of being able to just have people make these Mario levels, me can go through and try them and play them and see how much if I like or hate them. And quintessentially, I just found myself just enthralled just with going through this single player, getting enough with like some bit of the online courses I tried from some people that I know. But at that same point and stuff, it didn't really have a effect on me like the original Mario Maker did, because it's like I wanted to go through and try out courses. I wanted to create my own courses, see how well I could do in regards to that. And what was kind of the big of the common complaints back then is like kind of people thought it was too hard, and I'm like thinking to myself, it's like, well, if you knew the mechanics of doing jumping onto a Yoshi then jumping off the freaking piranha plants, that would have been but nah. But with everything else, though, I thought Mario Maker 2 was a fine sequel to the original. And quite honestly, that game, I watched quite a bit of people play it in terms of streams, got a better appreciation of some of the levels where you basically had to run from almost like an automated level, but you had to get the timings just precisely right, so that way you can actually play it instead of just watching it be played for you. Which I kind of like that they deterred away from stuff like that from the game. It made it a little bit more engaging. I felt like a boss just going through and clearing some levels. But, yeah, Super Mario Maker 2, what can I say more about it? I mean, it's a fun experience, and it's definitely something people should go through and check out if, say, they want to experience a great Mario game. Or even if they ever thought about maybe doing a little bit of game design and stuff like that, just give that a little bit of a whirl.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool, man. Really good game. It's it's a really fun game. I like that game a lot. But before we get into our number 5, I don't know if you have any Gables, but I do have some honorable mentions I want to throw out there. I did still make a top 15 list, surprisingly enough. So my number 15 is Man of Medan. It's from the people that made oh my god, I just fucking spaced the goddamn name. What's the game for PS4 that is like a horror movie? Oh man.
Until Dawn.
Until Dawn. Thank you very much. Wow. So they went off and made their own games. Like they're doing like an anthology series where they're all the games are gonna be in the same world, but they're all different from each other. I think they're gonna even reuse some of like the same actors and stuff. But Man of Medan was another one of those games, Until Dawn, like a kind of a button, like you watch a story, press buttons, quick time event kind of game. It was a fun little game. It was only like $30 when it came out. You could usually find it cheaper now. But you could probably be in like 4 hours. I thought it was really good. It was good, but it wasn't like I wasn't going into it expecting Until Dawn. But I was expecting it didn't hit the kind of what I thought it even still would hit. It was a fun one of those games. But I don't know. It's kind of like playing Outlast when we played that for the first time. And it's like every game since you want to find that next Outlast and you just don't find it.
Oh, I know, right?
It's kind of like playing Man of Medan is like it's a good game. It's not a great game. But it's good. It's definitely a game. If you want something like that, like this is definitely a game to play. It's probably one of the closest that we will get to playing another one of those games. If you're looking for that. But yeah, it was fun. That's my number 15 for this year. Number 14 is Walking Dead's final season for Telltale. I thought it was I enjoyed the story. It was like the only impactful thing was like what they can do with Clementine, kind of thing. But I hated the AJ the character, basically the Clementine of this season. Like now Clementine's taking care of AJ. Like he was just like I hated that character the entire time. Like I just kill him off, please. He's terrible. I hated him. And that whole thing, like that was the only like one thing that kind of kept driving me through this. Is like, what's going to happen with Clementine? And I actually legitimately enjoyed the last episode. There's only 4 episodes. I thought first episode was pretty interesting to build up. 2 and 3 were, and then 4 was like they did a good job. And it's usually the case with Telltale was like they start off really well, the middle's pretty meh, and then they ended off really well. And that's always like outside of like Tales of the Borderland and the first season of Walking Dead, that's always been kind of like the thing with them. So yeah, like if it wasn't for this being the final season, I don't think I would have continued on with it. 13 is Life is Strange 2. I really, I've raved about Life is Strange 1 and Life is Strange Before the Storm. Fucking adore those games. But this one just once again, like I think it was kind of like I just mentioned with Man with Dan, like where like I wanted them to hit the heights of Before the Storm and Life is Strange. And like to me in this case, I actually my anticipation level and my hype for that was on par with that. And it was okay, it was fine, it was whatever, and it was just like I talked about time, like maybe playing Walking Dead and this like within like 2 months of each other was kind of like a bad idea because I was so burnt out on that style. But then I just played After Party, and it's a little different. It's 2D side scroller, but like it's more the same where it's like you kind of pick and choose like your dialogue, things like that, and the character, the things you do, like this side of the game, what happens in that game, and it's like I legitimately had a lot of like really enjoyed that game, and it's like that totally like kind of brought these down a peg for me, where it's like, man, maybe it's just me, and it's like, no, it wasn't me. Like they're really good games, but they're not. It wasn't to the level of Life is Strange 1 to me and Before the Storm. But like I don't want to sit there and say like it's bad. It was once again, it was good. If you want more of that, like there's Life is Strange 2, but yeah, it just didn't hit that what I wanted. Number 12 is a game you just talked about, Super Mario Maker 2. Really, really like that game. I fell into a hole with the first one. Even for somebody like me that doesn't enjoy 2D Mario games, I mostly enjoyed like the 3D ones, like Odyssey, 3D World, stuff like that, Mario Galaxy. This one, I was thinking I was gonna get really sucked in this game, especially with like Courtney and like her nieces and nephews coming over. I'm like, this is a game like, oh man, we're gonna have like endless amounts of fun with this game because they love playing the old Mario. Like we'll play the NES online part. We'll play the old Mario games and stuff together, and we all have fun playing that. I'm like, this is like endless. We're gonna have all kinds of new levels to play, and it didn't click with them. And then like it was just like that kind of brought down a peg for me, and like, oh, that sucks. They're not really liking it. And then like me, like it didn't hit like the first one did. Like it just like the first one was just like, it looks like kind of like it could be cool, and like it like was like probably one of the best games that year when it came out, and I think it was like 2015 when it came out. Yeah. Just like it was fun. I jumped into a little bit. I did some of the creation level stuff. I played my friends' levels. I checked out some of the other levels, but within a couple weeks, I think I've gone back to it once since July and played it, and I just haven't gone back.
I haven't really gone back to it either.
Yeah. So I think that's a big reason why it is where it is. Number 11, Metro Exodus. Once again, a lot of these games, it's just like a lot of these games were just like I had higher hopes for, and they just didn't hit those levels. I love the first 2 Metro games. Raved about them since the beginning of this podcast. Literally, I think like one of the first 5 or 6 episodes of the show was me talking, like raving about Metro 2033 and Last Light, like loving these games. Like Metro 2033 was more of like a stealth game, first-person stealth game than anything, but you could shoot if you had to. Number 2 was still really, really good, but it was like they kind of went more on the shooting side of things than the stealth side of things. And this one just went more into like, here's a bunch of like big open world areas. They're not as big. It's not one big. It's like 5 or 6 open areas that you can fuck around in, and it's just like I don't want that from this game. It's like I recognize it's a really good game. It's probably better than I'm giving it credit for, but it's just like what I wanted from a Metro game, a Metro Exodus, and what we got. It's just like it's not what I want. It's like I just want that like that kind of that straight line. There's some side shit you can do, and I want to dive more into like I want to read all the shit that's going on. I want to read all the notes, figure out what the fuck's going on. Like I love what happened in this world. I want to know more about it. And this one, I'm just like, when it was over, I'm like, I was like, kind of when I got towards the end, I'm like, I'm just ready for this game to be over. And that's kind of what my feeling was with this. Where I was like, about halfway through, I'm just like, I'm not liking this game as much. So, and I just beat it because it's Metro, and I love Metro. That's the only reason I beat it. So that's my number 11. Do you have any honorable mentions you want to talk about, Gables?
There is a honorable mention that I would like to bring up, and it's more or less like a collection. You know, yes, like last year and stuff, we had a couple of collection stuff released by Konami. One of them being for Contra, the other one being for Castlevania.
Yeah. And
the thing about it is, I didn't really have too many like honorable mentions in terms of like new games, but this thing released last year for the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch has it as well. This whole Castlevania collection where you had the first game all the way up to like Bloodlines, and even like an unreleased game called Kid Dracula, which theoretically, and what's kind of hilarious about it is Kid Dracula is the first time it actually had been released in the US, 2019. And this is a game that was like made in 1988, 1989. So it technically kind of falls into that round of like games of this year, but I didn't include it in the list because for God's sakes, I enjoyed some other games more so than I did Kid Dracula. But no, the reason why it's in my honorable mentions is because it actually made me appreciate the older Castlevania games a lot more than I had realized. Because going into it, I mean, I loved the aspect of having a game like Castlevania Bloodlines, like downloadable. That was something huge for me because I had only been able to play it on the Genesis. I still have my copy for the Genesis, but downloading Castlevania Collection, going through Bloodlines with both John Morris and Eric Lecard, fantastic. That game is fantastic. Now, in terms of everything else in that bundle, I played through I actually went through a stint where I played through nothing but the Castlevania games. So it's like, I played through Castlevania 1, 2, oh my god. That was the first time and speaking of Castlevania 2, that's the first time ever I went through beginning to end, used a bit of guides, and actually beat, legitly, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest without having to use a code. I feel like that's a big accomplishment for me, because other people, they would have looked at that game and thought to themselves, man, this is so verbose. This is not worth it. I'm going to go ahead and not play this game. And quintessentially, that's why people have such a negative opinion on Simon's Quest, because it does not tell you where... It doesn't give you helpful hints in regards to what you're supposed to have, where you're supposed to go. The gameplay is pretty fun. It's Castlevania. You get to go through and do action stuff like you did in the original game. The only difference is you're collecting certain items and getting certain upgrades and certain types of like equipment to where you can actually progress by doing like specific things in specific like towns and stuff. But the boss battles were okay. There were some ways in order to abuse the system, especially with the final boss, where you could just do a holy water with him in place and just spam the shit out of the holy water, and there you go. But, okay, Super Castlevania 4, that's a classic. I've played through that one. Man, I still love it. Just the action, the gameplay of, like, just an old Super Nintendo game. You know, just old action games in general. I love those. Now, the one that I actually would like to mention, and it's the entire reason why I put it inside this honorable mentions, is Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Now, bear in mind, this is a late NES release. This was at least in the early 90s. This game is quite possibly one of the best NES games ever made. And that's just something that I had to go through and experience for myself. The gameplay... It's classic Castlevania. The music is absolutely fantastic. You listen to the soundtrack to that thing, and you would not think it's from the NES. Because the intricacies of what the composer went through and edited on in terms of like the chip tune, the whole like chipsets and everything else. Because the NES was only limited to what they could produce. So you go from something like Super Mario Brothers and stuff to just basic and stuff. Then all of a sudden you go to one of the later entries like Castlevania 3. In that same console's life cycle, it's like night and day. The music, the graphics, the gameplay, just the whole thing, like this whole thing about everything almost about it. But I liked it because I played through that game 4 times. That's a game. Now, for me to play through a game multiple times, in 1 year, that means something.
Yeah.
That obviously means something to me. And I played through that game, and I got every single trophy in that collection stuff. But the ones for Castlevania 3, I'm proud of the most because I played through it as Trevor. Like with Trevor and with Seifel Bonadas. With Grant Dynasty, the pirate. And also with Alucard, the son of Dracula. And during that fourth time, I just did the final one with like Sypha and stuff like that. And it is technically the true ending to that game, to where you get the whole ending cutscene and stuff. And they have a translation error. They decipher like Sypha is a man, but you clearly see flowing blonde hair, female figure and stuff. Obviously, they did an accidental translation error because Sypha is a female in terms of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, and this and that. But the experience of going through each level, the experience of going through each aspect, different paths for each character and stuff, and even some bits of crazy ass gimmicks, like say for Grant climbing on walls. Think of it this way: let's say you're playing an action game, Tyler, and you're able to control a character that not only can climb up walls but climb underneath platforms, like right above pitfalls and stuff like that.
That's like me in real life.
Well, what I'm saying is, it felt fresh. It felt like something I hadn't played on, that style of platformer before. So each character you played as, it was different and fresh takes upon what a character could do, their power and abilities, and that was pretty much number one reason why I feel that this deserves to be an honorable mention for me, because it's like Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, has proved itself to me to be one of my favorite games.
That's very cool, man. I appreciate that one, especially the fact if you beat the game 4 times in 1 year, it deserves to be in your list somewhere.
Yeah.
So very cool. Hey guys, Tyler here. So thank you so much for listening to part 1 of our Game of the Year podcast. Hope you guys come back in a few days for part 2.
Excuse me. Few too many beers there. Anyways, we're on iTunes now, so go on there, check us out, and if you like us, leave us a review, and we'll even shout you out. And Jack will send you his credit card number.